Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign and today we're going to go over my current favorite ship in EVE Echoes for PvP. And that ship is the ASHIMMU. Now, I realize in the past I did give this ship bad ratings across the board, apart from Fleet PvP when I did my ship tier list. Now, the main reason for this was because back then, the current skill points we had could not really make this ship shine. And just how bad armor tanking is, I don't care if you're running double armor medium reppers with rep amount rigs, you are not using this ship to its full potential. Now, if you don't know what the ship's role bonus is and its bonuses per skill, we'll just go through that really quickly. So we have minus 100% energy Nosferatu overload penalty. This allows you to use the Nosferatu all the time unless the target has completely run out of cap. It doesn't matter if your cap's higher or lower, you will always be sucking the juice out of other people's ships. With advanced electronic warfare bonus per level, you get 15% energy Nosferatu efficiency, another 15% energy neutralizer strength, and plus 20% stasis weatherfire optimal range. With the advanced cruiser bonus per level, you're getting the 12% medium laser damage and 7.5% medium laser tracking speed per level. Now, as I said, I am having a lot of fun with this ship, especially in Fleet PvP. This ship should be a staple for everyone's small gang group. What it brings to the table is absolutely massive. You've got 30-kilometer webs. You've got really strong Nosferatus and neutralizers. Now, I don't use neutralizers personally. I hate the 24-second activation time, and with this ship you can actually get more out of a Nos than you can out of a neutralizer, especially when running a shield tank as I am currently running on this ship. The Nos just gives you more than you would get out of using a neutralizer. You can get more tank. Your cap lasts much longer. Your activation time for a large Nos is 10 seconds. Your activation time for a medium Nos is 5 seconds. So let's go through the actual fit itself. For my version of the ASHIMMU, we have, of course, the C-type pulse lasers in the top slots, all 5 of those. We have one large energy Nosferatu. We have one medium energy Nosferatu. Now, if you look at the large Nosferatu, you've got an activation time of 10 seconds with 403 gigajoules every 10 seconds. We have an optimal range of 23.23 kilometers and an accuracy fall off of 13.66 kilometers. Now, if you don't know what that is, within your optimal range, you will always be pulling out that 403 gigajoules every 10 seconds unless they have no capacitor left. Now, what happens with accuracy fall off is the further into the accuracy fall off they are, the less energy transfer amount you will be taking from their capacitor, up until they have no cap left. The medium energy Nosferatu transfers 130 gigajoules every 5 seconds. Now, if you add it up to the 10 seconds of the large Nosferatu, you're getting 260 gigajoules every 10 seconds. Now, this one's only within 11.62 for the full amount and 6.83 after that for the accuracy fall off, where you'll be getting less the further away you are. I like to use this medium energy Nos in there not just to keep the capacitor well equipped, but in case you have frigates on you, you can actually activate much faster, getting those frigates out of their MWDs, getting those frigates to stop using their E-War, etc. I use the medium as a sort of countermeasure to that. Now, we do have the Predator Warp Disruptor in there at the 30-kilometer optimal range. I'm usually running in a small gang fleet with this ship. I do a lot of solo stuff in this, and I haven't had trouble with any ships, even Vigilance. Cinnables literally just fall like a sack of shit against this ship. As soon as their tank's gone, they literally go in a couple of cycles. It's actually mental how quickly you do it, especially if the Cinnaball is running a large shield booster in its tank. It's already taken quite a lot of cap from itself, and you just flatten it out. And once they can't use their adaptives anymore, literally the tank just goes whoop, and they're gone. You can swap this for a warp scrambler to be able to shut down the frigate's MWDs quicker, and also any ships that are trying to get away from you. That is also an option. I just prefer to use the warp disruptor for that extra range. We are using the Predator Stasis Weatherfire. Now, the Stasis Weatherfire with the bonus of the ASHIMMU is actually got an optimal range of 29.6 kilometers. That is the longest range web in the game of at least the cruiser size. We are running a Mark 7 Infiltrator. I just use this because it doubles up with the damage on theirs. It doesn't really matter. The drones don't do much damage when you have no skills in the actual drones. I also like to use those because those are the fastest and they can jump on top of the frigates and keep up with most of them. Now in the low slots, we are running a center C-type large shield booster that gives you 914 boost amount every 6.62 seconds. I'm not in the expert levels of shield yet, so this would actually be a lot quicker once I do get into those expert levels. The activation cost will be a lot less and the power grid requirements will be a lot less. We are running dual Pitham C-type adaptive invulnerability fields. This is to get your resistances up because you don't actually have that much in shield HP compared to how much armor HP the ASHIMMU actually has. Now on this particular fit right now, what I'm using is the C-type medium micro warp drive. As I said, we're normally running in a small gang between 3 to 5 other players, but this does help you get well into that range to get that double NOS onto the ships, especially if you have them webbed. You can actually have an afterburner in here, and I was using an afterburner before, but because I didn't have any afterburner skills and I didn't really want to put it in there, I was working on a few other things. I was working on a few other skills that I deem more important than getting into the afterburner right now. But putting that afterburner on there does make you completely cap stable in this fit. So if you do have afterburner skills, you can get up to the 1300, 1400 meters a second with the afterburner skills 554 on the ASHIMMU. So if you do have that, it is kind of worth doing it because you can only get about 1800, 1900 with the micro warp drive anyway. So let's have a quick look at the rigs. As always, you know, if you watch my videos with my fits, I always plug those resistance holes. I prefer to have a tankier ship than a higher DPS ship, especially in this case where I want to be holding the tank. So all I need to do is just hold enough tank to have them completely capped out, and those ships will be dead in quick succession after that. Your DPS doesn't need to be that high, especially since this ship can tank Cinnaballs, it can tank Phantasms, it can tank battle cruisers. I've tanked Tornadoes in this ship, I've tanked Oracles in this ship. I haven't gone up against any battleships yet with this ship, but I'm pretty sure that I could actually tank battleships in this fit sitting out at 15 kilometers orbiting around the ship itself. So we have the anti-EM, anti-thermal screen reinforcer 3s, and in the last slot I just have a laser burst air rated 3 in there to speed up the activation time. Once you do get all the defenses down by getting their cap missing, you can activate faster and do much more damage. I mean, I'm hitting at 2500 every couple of seconds. Even in armor, I'm hitting about 1800 once their cap's gone because their resistances go, their adapters go, their reactives go, their shield boosters go, their armor reppers go. Everything's gone once their cap has been taken out. Now on the right side, to be able to fit the large shield booster and the large Nosferatu, I have 2 power grid 3s and a power grid 2. Now what we can do when I finally actually get into expert shield booster, because that will drop the power grid need by an extra 10%, I can actually take this level 2 power grid out and stick a SCM3 in there to be completely stable in the micro warp drive fit. And with the lowering of the cost of capacitor and activation time for the shield, it's just going to take a little bit of time for me to get into there. Right, so let's go over the cold stats of this ASHIMMU. We have offensive DPS of 637.55, 617.48 of that DPS is all in the lasers. Now that might not look like it's a massive amount of offensive DPS, but what you need to understand with the actual DPS is, let's take the Cinnaball for example, with 900 DPS. You'd think they'd actually be doing more damage than the ASHIMMU, and that is probably the case if they don't have tanks active on a ship. But if they have high level percentages within the 79s, the AEs, you're actually doing a lot less DPS because this doesn't account for resistances. It doesn't account for if you've got extenders on, armor hardeners. It doesn't account for anything. It doesn't account for your tracking. It just accounts for you doing full application. So when you're in an ASHIMMU and you're actually capping out a ship, once they're capped out and they don't have their hardeners on, as I've said previously, they don't have their reactives on, their adaptives, they can't use their tank at all, they can't use any of their tracking disruptors, etc. You're actually doing more DPS in the long run once those defenses go down. It is an absolutely marvelous 1v1 ship, and you can take on much more in a small gang than you normally would with this ship in tow. So let's move on to the cold defensive. We have 34,038 defense EHP. Now we only have 6,509 shield hit points. With the rigs in place, we have 40% EM, 52% thermal, 40% kinetic, and 55% explosive. With those rigs in there and blocking up those holes, it actually equals out to what the natural resistances of shield are anyway. Now in the armor, we do have 9,000 hit points with 50, 35, 25, and 19. This actually allows for a pretty decent buffer when you're going up against your lasers and your missiles. Now it won't do so well against your rails and your snubs, and it won't do as well against cannons once you get to that armor, but I have yet to hit hit armor in this ship in any fight that I've had so far, including tornadoes, which I was able to tank their damage from 100 kilometers. They warp away in the end because you get too close to them. They're like, oh no, screw that. And they leave. They haven't brought me to armor at all. Cinnaballs haven't been able to bring me to armor on the live server in this ship. Vigilance cap disappears before they even get to do the DPS to me. I've had a fight with 3 Vigilance, 2 of which were random people who couldn't get me below 80% shield in this ship. And before you say they're bad Vigilance, I actually went against a guy who has over 500 kills in his Vigilant. He's in my corp. We went 1v1 to Hull, and he couldn't get me below the 70-80% shield mark from his Vigilant using snubs. I capped him out before he actually could get there, and I took him down to Hull in seconds. So let's have a look at the capacitor. Currently, because we're still working on a few skills, which will be done in a few days, there's not much time to do those. They're more of the less SP involved skills. We have 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Now, you won't always have to use the large shield booster, so you will be stable, and you won't always have to use the micro warp drive. So you can turn that micro warp drive once you're in the middle of the fight. Your signature actually goes down, so it helps against tracking against large weapons, for example, and you can use that large shield booster continuously all the way through the fight. You are stable without using one or the other. Now, I'll be stable using both of them once those skills have come through. Now, this ship has 7 max lock targets, as with all faction cruisers. It has a 461 scan resolution. That is quite low. A 10-minute cap within a fight is actually pretty damn decent, especially if you're actively cycling modules. It can go on for a hell of a lot longer than those 10 minutes. Actually, instead of sticking the tier 2 power grid in there and swapping it out for an SCM3, for example, you could not put that SCM3 in there and just stick a targeting 3 in there, and that'll raise that up to about 800 to 900 millimeter resolution, allowing you to target ships much quicker and getting that NOS on there as quickly as possible. So our navigation is 321.09 meters a second, warp speed of 3 AU a second, and a warp preparation time of 4.38 seconds. Again, if you want to warp a little bit faster, instead of the targeting rig, you can actually fit an inertia rig on there, getting that below 3 seconds, allowing you to be able to get out of situations that you're in a bit of shit with. You can get out of that quicker. Now, I just realized where I logged out in last night, and this is enemy territory, so I'm going to have to get back into low-sec so I can show you the stats outside of the station. Or I can just do it and see what happens. Let's see what happens. It should be fine. Now, there was actually people waiting outside the station for me, so I had to actually jump straight to the gate. So when I jump through there, we'll get through to the other side and I'll show you these stats hot. So now we're in low-sec, we can actually activate these adaptives, activate the micro warp drive, and have a look at those hot stats. So our offensive DPS stays the same as we have no DPS modules, but our defenses, if we have a look at these, we are sitting at 74% EM, 79% thermal, 74% kinetic, and 80% explosive. Those are very high resistance marks. It is very good for your tank. That way you'll be taking less damage. So the less shield hit points over armor hit points doesn't take as much of a massive hit. Now, if we look at the speed that we're currently having with the navigation, I have about 10 hours left on Expert Micro Warp Drive 4. We're sitting at 1,807.51 meters a second. Once that 4 goes up there, I'll be around about 1900 to 1950, which is a very good, very decent speed for a ship of the cruiser size to get into range, to get those NOSes and those webs on if you are just out of range. You can get right up in a lot of ships' grills. None of the other stats changed across the board, as obviously I am mainly tanking in this ship, but you still have a pretty decent DPS on there. And that's all we have for my current PvP fit for the ASHIMMU. I'm really enjoying this ship. I'm still using interceptors on my other account, and I do have a new executioner fit that I'll be doing over the next couple of days. I need to do a little bit more testing on that. It is very strong, very hard to kill as a tackle. It's a dual prop system, so I'm using both afterburners and micro warp drives to be able to speed tank at any level. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember to like and sub if you haven't already. This is your one-stop shop for Eve Echoes content. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.